Karen beat a disabled boy's service dog with a garden rake. Not because it attacked her. Not because it barked. But because its paws touched her perfect grass. Max didn't lunge. Didn't growl. Didn't even step off the sidewalk. The golden retriever stood between Liam's wheelchair and the street, calm, alert, trained. But that didn't matter to her. Karen saw a child. A dog. And a patch of grass. And in her eyes, one of them had to go. So she chose violence. The rake slammed down, hard, against Max's shoulder. A sharp cry tore through the quiet neighborhood. For a split. Blood hit the pavement. Liam screamed. Neighbors froze. And Karen? She just smiled. "This is private property," she said, holding the rake like a trophy. "Dogs aren't allowed on HOA grass. Not even crippled dogs." That was her exact word. Someone gasped. A phone camera clicked on. A screen door creaked open. And still, Karen didn't care. She didn't care that Max wore a red service vest. Didn't care that Liam was only 10, paralyzed from the waist down. Didn't care that people were watching. Because Karen was the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood. She was president of the HOA, and that gave her power. At least, that's what she thought. What she didn't know. Liam's mom was just turning onto the street. And she wasn't just a mom. She was an officer. And she'd seen everything. It all started 20 minutes earlier. Liam was out on the sidewalk with Max. It was their morning routine. A short roll around the block before breakfast. Max wore his vest and leash. Liam wore his superhero shirt, the one with a faded Captain America shield. Sunlight stretched long shadows across the driveways. Birds chirped. Lawns gleamed with dew. It was a peaceful scene, until Karen stormed out of her house. She didn't walk. She charged. Armed with a clipboard in one hand and a rake in the other. "You can't be here!" she shouted from across the yard. Liam turned, confused. Max stayed still, blocking the curb. Karen didn't wait for a response. She stomped across the lawn, pointed her rake like a spear, and yelled. "Service dog or not, I run this neighborhood. You're violating code!" Liam tried to explain. His voice trembled. "He's not just a dog. He helps me. Please don't." But she didn't care. She didn't stop. The rake hit Max once. Then again. The golden retriever backed away, limping, eyes wide but still calm, still trying to protect the boy. Liam burst into tears. A neighbor across the street stepped onto his porch. And then tires screeched. A black SUV pulled into the driveway. The door slammed. Footsteps thundered across the pavement. Liam's mom appeared, badge on her hip, fire in her eyes. Karen had no idea what she just triggered. The neighborhood looked perfect on the outside. Tree-lined streets. Identical beige houses. Driveways so clean they looked pressure-washed every morning. Lawns trimmed to golf course precision. Kids rode bikes in silence. Parents waved like actors in a 1950s commercial. But underneath that glossy surface, things were different. Behind every smile was a silent warning, don't break the rules. Because the HOA didn't just enforce them. It worshipped them. And at the head of it all was Karen, the iron-fisted president, self-appointed enforcer, and part-time neighborhood tyrant. She didn't live in the biggest house, but she acted like she owned every inch of sidewalk. If your trash bins were out past 10 a.m., you got a warning. Forgot to edge your lawn before Monday? $50 fine. Painted your mailbox the wrong shade of off-white? Get ready for a formal complaint, and probably a visit. Karen loved rules. But more than that, she loved control. And she especially hated anything, or anyone, that didn't fit her narrow view of acceptable. That's why Liam's family had always been on her radar. They'd only moved into the neighborhood 6 weeks earlier. A quiet military family. Dad stationed overseas. Mom, Sergeant Vanessa Blake, recently retired from active duty, now working local law enforcement. And Liam, her 10-year-old son, sweet, quiet, wheelchair-bound since a drunk driver ran a red light 3 years ago. Liam didn't complain. He didn't pout or demand attention. He rolled with it, literally. And Max? Max was his lifeline. A 3-year-old golden retriever, trained to open doors, push elevator buttons, even detect pain before it hit. But more than that, Max gave Liam confidence. Freedom. Safety. Friendship. They were never more than 5 feet apart. Every morning, Vanessa gave Liam 15 minutes outside with Max before school. It was their little ritual. She could see him from the kitchen window. Sometimes she'd watch him smile to himself. Other times, Max would rest his head gently on Liam's lap while they watched the world go by. It was peaceful. Until Karen decided it wasn't. She had complained about Max twice already. Once for leaving paw prints on the sidewalk. Another time for sniffing too close to her rose bushes. But today, she escalated. And Vanessa? She wasn't having it. That morning, Vanessa had been running late from her shift at the precinct. She turned onto their street just as she saw Karen raise the rake. Her breath caught. Her foot slammed the brake. The SUV screeched into the driveway. She didn't turn off the engine. She didn't grab her coffee. She didn't even close the door. She ran. Not as a cop. Not as a sergeant. But as a mother. "Liam!" she shouted. The boy turned, tears streaming down his face. Max limped beside him, his vest torn, blood dripping onto the grass. Karen turned too. And for the first time, she hesitated. Vanessa was already in front of her. "What the hell did you just do?" Karen tried to puff herself up. "Your animal, your so-called service dog, was trespassing. I have every right to protect my property." Vanessa pulled out her phone. "Say that again." "On camera." Karen's eyes flicked to the phone. Then to the small crowd forming down the street. 2 teenage boys were recording. A woman across the street was on her front lawn, hand covering her mouth. Even Mr. Johnson, the quiet widower on the corner, was watching with arms folded. I didn't mean to hurt him," Karen stammered. "He shouldn't have been." Vanessa knelt next to Max, gently examined the wound. Checked his breathing. Max didn't growl. Didn't flinch. He licked her wrist softly, as if to say, "I did my best." Then she looked up, slow, steady. "I'm calling animal control. Then I'm calling my precinct. And you," she pointed directly at Karen, "are going to answer for what you just did." Karen backed up a step. Just one. But it was the first time anyone had ever seen her retreat. Karen wasn't used to being challenged. Especially not by someone like Vanessa. She straightened her back, adjusted her sunglasses, and gave a tight, mocking smile. "You're seriously going to make this a police matter? Over a dog?" Vanessa stood tall. "Over a service dog that you just assaulted in front of my son? Damn right I am." Karen scoffed. "Oh please. That kid shouldn't be out here unsupervised anyway. This whole situation could have been avoided if you were a better parent." The crowd murmured. Neighbors were gathering now, drawn by the commotion, the blood on the sidewalk, and the sheer audacity of Karen's words. Liam sat silently in his wheelchair, gripping Max's collar, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Max whimpered softly beside him, still bleeding. Karen pointed at the boy, her voice rising. "I've seen him out here every morning. Just sitting around, letting that mutt sniff at people's yards. And you let him? You think you're entitled because of some vest and a sad story?" Vanessa clenched her fists. "I don't care if you're HOA President, Queen of the Subdivision, or God himself, you don't touch my son's dog." Karen's voice sharpened like a knife. "I enforce the rules. I don't break them. Assaulting a federally protected service animal is breaking the law." Vanessa snapped. Karen laughed. Loud. Too loud. "Oh, come on. That's not a real charge. It's a dog. It'll heal. You people love to make everything a federal case." And there it was, the line she couldn't take back. "You people. Vanessa blinked slowly. So did the crowd. Mrs. Albright from 3 houses down shook her head and whispered something under her breath. A man in gym shorts muttered, "She really just said that?" Karen kept going, oblivious. "You think your badge gives you special privileges? It doesn't. You might be able to intimidate the rest of these sheep, but I know the HOA bylaws. That dog wasn't on a leash. That boy was unsupervised. That's a liability. I have the right to protect neighborhood standards." Vanessa pulled out her phone, unlocked it, and began recording. She spoke calmly, deliberately. "Your name is Karen Matthews, correct? You're the current acting president of the Cedar Ridge HOA?" Karen hesitated. "What does that have to do with?" "This video will be submitted to my department. I suggest you choose your next words very carefully." Karen tried to yank the sunglasses off her face like it would change what had already been done. "You can't threaten me with some little precinct drama. This is HOA jurisdiction." Someone snorted. It came from the crowd. Then a voice cut through. "Is that what you told the last family you chased out?" Silence. Vanessa turned her head. The speaker was a teenager, maybe 17, holding his phone high, live streaming. "My mom cried for weeks after you fined us over Halloween decorations," he said. "You made her feel like she didn't belong here." Karen snapped. "That's because she didn't follow the rules." Another neighbor chimed in. "You threatened to tow my car for being parked half an inch over the line. Are you gonna hit me with a rake too?" Karen's face turned red. "You're all turning this against me because I dared to keep order. You need rules. That's what keeps neighborhoods like this nice." Vanessa stepped forward. Not yelling. Not moving fast. Just presence. "You don't care about order. You care about control. And today, you crossed the line. That dog," she pointed to Max, "is protected by federal law. That child is protected by me. And you're about to find out what happens when someone finally stands up to you." Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The sound of sirens began to echo faintly in the distance. Vanessa's backup had arrived. The first squad car turned the corner fast. Lights flashing. Sirens blaring. The kind of arrival that made every curtain in the neighborhood flutter. Karen's smug smile vanished. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, stepping back. "I told you, I didn't hurt the mutt, he just got in the way." Vanessa didn't respond. She was already moving, fast, controlled, purposeful. She crouched beside Max, pressing a folded towel against his wound. Her voice was calm, but clipped. "He's going into shock. He needs emergency care." Then, she looked up at Liam. "Baby, stay right here. Officer Wilson's gonna come talk to you, okay?" Liam nodded, wide-eyed but silent. Karen frowned. "You know the cops? That's supposed to scare me?" But her words had lost bite. The second patrol car rolled up behind the first. 2 officers stepped out. Uniforms sharp. Posture stiff. No smiles. One of them, Officer Wilson, walked straight to Vanessa and saluted. "Sergeant Blake." Karen blinked. "Wait, saluted? Did I hear that right?" A neighbor whispered behind her. Vanessa stood up slowly, wiped her hands on her pants, and nodded to the officer. "Animal control's en route," she said. "Possible violation of ADA regulations, federal protection of service animals, child endangerment, and a possible hate-based incident." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The second officer, Santiago, stepped in beside her. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to stay where you are. Do you have any weapons on you?" Karen clutched her rake. "What?" "No, this is gardening equipment. This is my yard. You struck a service animal," Vanessa said, turning fully toward her now. "That makes it a weapon. You people have no idea what you're talking about." Karen barked. "I've read the HOA bylaws. I enforce the rules here." Vanessa tilted her head. "You think an HOA pamphlet outranks federal law?" Karen stepped back again. You're just some cop. No, Wilson corrected, loud and clear. She's a decorated military police sergeant and a liaison to the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. Silence hit the crowd like a punch. Karen paled. She's the reason half our department even knows ADA animal protection law. Officer Santiago added. We've trained under her. She lectures at the academy. Karen's rake hit the ground with a soft clatter. From behind the crowd, someone whispered, She messed with the wrong mom. Vanessa stepped closer. Karen Matthews, she said, you assaulted a working service dog assisting a disabled child. That alone carries a fine of up to $20,000 and potential jail time under federal statute. That's not HOA territory. That's federal court. Karen's voice cracked. I didn't know. That's the thing. Vanessa cut her off. You didn't care to know. Karen turned, as if to walk away, but Officer Santiago stepped in front of her. You're not going anywhere. Then he read her rights. Out loud. In front of every neighbor she'd ever intimidated, fined, or humiliated. And the best part? Someone was live streaming it. The whole thing. Karen didn't walk to the squad car, she stumbled. The moment Officer Santiago finished reading her rights, she turned pale, swayed on her feet, and looked around as if hoping someone, anyone, might defend her. No one did. Even her closest allies in the HOA stood stone-faced on their porches, arms crossed. Not a single neighbor stepped forward. Not a single voice objected. Because they had all seen too much for too long. They saw the woman who fined a family $200 for a plastic flamingo. The woman who berated a 13-year-old for skateboarding near her driveway. The woman who told a young black couple that patio furniture was too urban for the neighborhood aesthetic. And now, the woman who beat a disabled child service dog and called it order. Officer Santiago gently took the rake from the lawn, slid it into an evidence bag, and handed it to Wilson. Karen's wrists were cuffed behind her back, tight, but by the book. I want to call my lawyer, she muttered, voice thin. You'll get your chance, Wilson replied calmly. Right now, you're being detained for animal cruelty, reckless endangerment, and violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Additional charges may follow. They opened the door. Karen hesitated. Cameras were everywhere. Phones. Live streams. Even the HOA group chat was buzzing. Someone had posted a photo of Karen in cuffs with the caption, HOA President learns the law the hard way. Karen finally sat down in the back of the squad car. Door shut. Silence. For the first time since she moved into Cedar Ridge, Karen Matthews had no control. Animal control arrived minutes later. They checked Max's wound, stabilized him gently, and loaded him into the back of a van, with Vanessa riding shotgun. He's going straight to emergency care, the officer told Liam, kneeling to meet his eyes. But he's strong. He's got a good heart. Liam nodded, gripping his mother's hand. Max licked his fingers as they closed the van door. Within 24 hours, the neighborhood flipped. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. Karen was suspended indefinitely. Then removed entirely. 3 neighbors, previously silenced by Karen's intimidation, stepped up to take her place. They passed 2 new bylaws. Immediate protection and recognition of all certified service animals in the community. Permanent ban on Karen Matthews from holding any HOA position again. Ever. They also sent an official apology to Liam and Vanessa, signed by all remaining board members. That same week, Vanessa received a call. It was from a local news station. Turns out, the video of Karen's arrest had gone viral. Not just on neighborhood social media, but TikTok, Instagram, even local TV. It had over 2 million views in 48 hours. Headlines read, HOA President assaults disabled child service dog, gets owned by officer mom. Vanessa declined the interview. She wasn't looking for fame. All she wanted was peace. And justice. And Max. Max came home 2 days later, bandaged, groggy, but alive. The vet said the rake had just missed a major artery. A few inches deeper, and the story might have ended differently. But Max was a fighter. The first thing he did when he saw Liam? Wagged his tail. Slowly. Softly. Then crawled into Liam's lap and rested his head, just like always. The whole neighborhood stood on their lawns to welcome him home. No one said a word. They didn't need to. That Sunday, something strange happened. Neighbors who had never spoken beyond forced smiles showed up at the Blake family's doorstep, with flowers, baked goods, and quiet apologies. One man from 2 streets over dropped off a custom-made sign that read, "Max's Corner, protected by courage." They planted it right where it happened, on the edge of the sidewalk where Max had stood his ground. Liam smiled when he saw it. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. He just looked at his dog, bandaged but proud, then looked back at the crowd and whispered, "Thank you." Vanessa kept her badge. But now, she walked a little taller in the neighborhood, not because of power, but because of respect. People didn't avoid eye contact anymore. They waved first. Asked about Max, checked in on Liam. Something had shifted. The neighborhood hadn't just gotten quieter, it had gotten kinder. Even the new HOA board felt different. Less rigid. More human. It turned out, most people hadn't wanted Karen in charge. They'd just been afraid. But all it took was one person saying, "Enough." And suddenly, everyone else remembered how to stand. A month later, Vanessa took Liam and Max to the park. It was Max's first time back off leash since the incident. His limp was still there, but only faint. His energy had returned. His coat was shiny again. His eyes, alert as ever. Vanessa sat on the bench, sipping coffee, watching her son and his dog race across the grass. And for the first time in a long time, she exhaled. She thought about what could have happened. What almost happened. And what didn't, because someone finally fought back. Justice didn't always wear a uniform. But that day it had. And sometimes, justice walked on 4 legs. Later that evening, Liam asked a question. "Mom, is Max a hero?" Vanessa looked at the dog curled up at Liam's feet, his head resting gently on his little human's lap. She smiled. "No, baby. Max isn't a hero," she said softly. "He's family. And in this family, nobody gets left to fight alone."